We're on. Okay, hello everybody, all of you astrology lovers out there. It is so wonderful to be meeting you here today. I am on, well, first I'll introduce myself if you don't know me. My name is Amanda Poole-Walsh. I am the CEO and co-founder of Astrology Hub, and I am here today with Donna Woodwell. She is our editor-in-chief and our astrologer extraordinaire. She is incredible, and she is here. We've been doing this weekly now for, I don't know, what, 3-4 weeks?
I think so.
Yep, talking eclipses. And so Donna is here to answer your most burning questions about eclipses in general, but also about the Great American Eclipse that is happening this summer, August 21st. It is a big one for our country, for the world, and for some of you personally as well. So we have been collecting all of your amazing questions, and we're going to be answering them live today. Not all of them, as many as we can. There's some amazing questions that have come in. So let's start. You ready, Donna?
Before you start, let's give everyone a warning. We are having a very powerful electrical storm move through. So if I suddenly go poof, you will know what happened.
That's when I'll start dancing and singing. We just lost Donna.
It's happened before. I was giving a lecture on the Venus in her dark star phase, and the building got struck by lightning. And we were all sitting in the dark very quietly.
Wow, that's amazing. So if you don't know, Donna's in Austin. I am broadcasting from Maui. So we're having very different weather experiences right now. All right. And if you're tuning in now, say hello. Give us a like or a heart. We love to know that you're there. If we have time, we will answer your questions live during this broadcast. So please just put them underneath the video. If you're watching this recording later, post your questions under the Q&A graphic that is in our Astrology Eclipse portal. So if you're not a part of our Astrology Eclipse portal yet, search for it or find the link underneath this video and click Join Group. We will let you into the group, and then you can ask your question for our next week's upcoming Q&A. Okay, I hope that wasn't confusing. Number one, if you have questions, you need to go to the Astrology Eclipse portal and click Join Group. Number two, find the graphic that says Q&A. Number three, put your question there. And then number four, hopefully we'll answer it on the next Q&A.
We always answer as many as we can.
We do, and we have some great ones. I'm really excited. Okay, so the first question is, before August 21st, are there any other important dates between April and August that will trigger or go over the same point, perhaps giving us insight into what might occur during the Great American Eclipse on August 21st?
Oh, that was a great question, and a really important one, especially this week, because if you're studying the Great American Eclipse already, you'll know that it's at about 28 degrees Leo. So anything that's going past around 28 degrees Leo or the opposite side around 28 degrees Aquarius is in a direct line to trigger or cause some kinds of events related to the eclipse to happen in our lives. So eclipses, a lot of things in astrology actually sort of reverberate forwards and backwards in time. And so you kind of hit the degree becomes sensitive before the actual event happens, which makes you think really crazy things about what is the nature of time anyway. And so what we need to look for is planets that are going to hit that degree. So obviously the moon is going to hit that degree once a month because it's constantly circling the Earth. And so the dates for that happening would be April 7th. I had to get the little ephemeris and look this one up. April 7th, around May 4th, July 31st, June 31st.
Donna, slow down.
Oh, sorry.
Say those dates again. I'm sure everyone is going to take notes. So big dates.
April 7th, May 4th, June 29th, July 24th. So write those things down. The eclipse is about 5 months away now. That's when the moon will be at that sensitive degree. And if you were watching the news on April 7th, like clockwork, we had President Trump sending missiles to bomb Syria on that evening. So we may have had our first triggering event already. So keep watch, especially on the news or in your own life if you've got planets around those degrees. Also on the Mercury, which is the next quickest moving planet, will hit that degree around the end of July, around the 26th of July. So that's another possibility for a triggering event. For triggers after the eclipse, there is a major trigger at the beginning of September. So between September 4th, 5th, 6th, around there, that's when Mars will be catching up to the eclipse degree. But it's happening, Simon. Mars always likes to trigger things. He likes to get stuff moving and shaking. But it happens to be the same time that Mercury will be coming out of retrograde, and Mercury will be stationing direct on the eclipse degree at the same time Mars is there. So they're having a little party. Meanwhile, on the opposite side in Aquarius, the moon will be sitting there. So to have 3 planets triggering the eclipse degree simultaneously within about 24 hours of each other is a large indicator that things related to the eclipse may manifest at that time in September. And of course, eclipses can carry reverberations a lot longer than that. Some modern astrologers might say for the next 3 months, all the way to the next 6 months in the next eclipse cycle. Traditionally, they would have said, get this, as long as the eclipses average about 3 hours long from beginning to end, but they can be as long as 7 or even shorter. If that's the number of hours, you make it the number of years. So if it was like a 3-hour eclipse, the effect is 3 years. If it was a 7-hour eclipse, the effect is 7 years. And so that's an interesting way to think about it, that even though it may not be as intense as time goes on, it's still kind of a lingering effect in our lives.
Interesting. All right. So Donna, I don't want to ask you to make a prediction, but I do want to ask you, so there's a big but there. If you had to give your input on, so we're talking about triggering events that are carrying the theme of the eclipse that's happening August 21st, and you talk about the big one in September, how about what kind of energy, what is going to be in the air at that time?
Well, see, this is where astrology gets into the art of reading the future waves. And you have to know an awful lot about what's possible. So think of it this way. If I am reading a book, you're reading a fiction book, it's no big deal if you skip ahead, 3 or 4 pages, maybe even a chapter, and you know what's going on. And you can make very educated guesses about what the energy is going to manifest because you haven't missed that much and you just get back into it. But the more chapters you skip, the more things that could have happened or people that could have entered the equation between now and then that can change how things manifest. So,
very interesting. Yep.
So the fact that we just bombed Syria, so what happens over the next 3 weeks will change what can potentially happen with some of these eclipse triggering moments. And if the US and the Soviet Union, or the former Soviet Union, now Russia, get into a lot of fractured discourse centered on Syria, that could set the tinder to have a big bonfire at the end of the summer when we have all of these eclipse triggers hitting things. I'd have to look at the chart for Syria. I haven't done that yet. I have to look for the chart for Russia, and I haven't done that yet. But it's possible, especially since we know they're already hitting Trump's chart, that it could be some kind of spread of a more instability, because Mars is in the equation over and over again, and Mars happens to deal with wars. However, it doesn't have to play out like that. Mars also has to do with separating. Mars has to do with people leaving office. Any of those are possibilities, which just brings down the point. What we decide to do for the next 3 months is critical to what's going to be able to manifest farther down the line. And so really, in your own lives personally, watch what you're putting out there, because it makes all the difference in the world. And collectively, if you are working with groups that are advocating certain kinds of social change, now is the time to get on it, because you will be providing the alternatives. When change comes, often it's the people who are standing there at the table saying, hey, what about this, that get things to manifest.
Donna, thank you so much for that entire message that you just gave us. It's both grounded and, but also hopeful. So I'm going to sound like a broken record by the time we get to August 21st, because this is kind of the line that I want to hold as Astrology Hub. this, what Donna just described, is the reason why we've created the Astrology Eclipse Portal, you know, the private group where we're talking eclipses. It's the reason why we're on here twice a week, every week, doing a Facebook Live about eclipses, about the eclipse coming up, about eclipses in general. So it's because we have an opportunity. We who are aware and conscious can begin to pay attention to the type of energy that we're putting out into the world. We can actually be in a place to hold a different vision for this planet, for this world. And when there's instability, we can actually hold, even though external circumstances may be unstable, we can be stable and grounded in ourselves, in our own energy, in our communities, in our families. And I know that this has an impact on the world. So this is why we feel so passionate about being here, you know, lending our time, doing this every week, week after week after week, because it's important. It's really important, and we have an opportunity. So,
Amanda, you just hit the nail on the head. It's instability. But do you know what instability is? It's an opportunity to do something different.
Totally.
And when you're so stuck in the mud in your own habits and you're doing things based on whatever your subconscious programming is, when it's unstable and when it's called into question, and you have to bring your consciousness to the equation, we have a moment where we can choose. So let's choose well.
Well, and we're choosing every moment, the thoughts, the actions that we're bringing to the table, we're always choosing. You know, my dad, so funny, he called right before this Facebook Live, but I remember a saying that he would say sometimes when I was growing up, and I don't know if he still believes this, but he would say, you know, sometimes the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. And so what's making me think of is some of us are fighting for things to stay the same, when in reality, most of us aren't really happy with the way things are. So in this instability, it's just a precursor to a massive change that is due. You know, it's time for an overhaul. It's time for things to shift.
Yeah,
and
this eclipse is the gateway to an extended period of change for the United States. And you don't have to be an astrologer to think that. I mean, just scan a lot of news. We are going to see a massive changeover in the entire transportation industry because we have self-driving cars that are on the highway coming towards us. We have automated checkouts where you can just walk through the scanners and the barcodes will be picked up by the doorway itself and then taken off your credit card. That will destabilize the entire checkout industry. So we have all the transportation and all the checkout industries we already know are going to be changing over within the next decade or so. Now, that's going to change the lives of millions of people in modern societies. So rather than stick our heads in the sand and say, oh no, this isn't happening, or cling to something that feels familiar, we have no choice but to embrace the future. And this eclipse is giving us the opportunity to face our shadow fears about what that future might be and walk together to figure out a better plan so that we know we don't have to do it from a place of fear, and we can do it from a place of possibility and potential.
Totally. Okay. On those same lines, although this is going to seem like a diversion from the hopeful stance we have right now, empowering stance. The question is, it came from Simone. Any thoughts on the eclipse triggering a stock market crash?
You know, I don't do financial astrology. I let that to the very talented financial astrologers of the world.
Like Christine Skinner.
Like Christine Skinner. And she just, I hear that there is an article coming up, an upcoming edition of the Mountain Astrologer, where she has written an article for the eclipse this summer on that very topic. So I am waiting by my mailbox to get my Mountain Astrologist so I can see what Christine has to say on the topic.
Well, that's really cool because we also are going to have, I'm giving a little sneak peek, we're going to have Christine Skinner available to all of you to ask these more financial, economic questions very soon here. So that is coming. Woohoo! Be on the lookout for that. Okay, for those of you who are just joining us, we are on live with astrologer Donna Woodwell, and we are answering your questions from the Astrology Eclipse portal. So people have been sending in questions about eclipses in general, but also about the upcoming Great American Eclipse that's happening on August 21st. So if you are not in that group yet, please go ahead. It's free. All you have to do is either click on the link that's under the chat of this video and click join group, or you can search for it in the Facebook search function. But it's called the Astrology Eclipse Portal, and we are having eclipse conversations all the time, 24/7. And we're doing these live broadcasts twice a week. Okay.
All eclipse all the time. Huh?
All eclipse all the time. Okay. Do eclipses affect the weather? The Great American Eclipse is covering a good portion of the U.S., so I'm thinking the possibility of storms, quakes, and volcanic activity.
Yeah, traditionally speaking, they would have looked at eclipses as indicators of weather for the coming season. An eclipse in a fire sign would say either heat waves or wildfires or things of a fiery nature get intensified. That would mean that an extra hot summer this year in the United States, a lot drier than usual, or droughts, especially where the eclipse area is going across. Wildfires, all of those kinds of things are possibilities. There is research that is developing on the relationship between the sun and the sun cycles and earthquake activity. So another thing that they would use to predict would be an eclipse. This is actually kind of a supermoon eclipse, and that's what a total eclipse is. It's when the moon is actually closer to the earth, so it can block out more of the sun. And that would be a trigger. A supermoon would be a trigger for an eclipse, for an earthquake anyway. Some people are already talking about the fact that this eclipse line goes from Oregon, but all the way across the central United States, where there is a big fault line that isn't, when it moves every few hundred years, it can be a big deal because it's so shocking. It doesn't usually move. So the New Madrid fault may over the next couple, if it's not this year, over the next few years, may be predicting some instability.
Okay. All right. Okay. So is being born on an eclipse a big deal?
Well, we have eclipses 4 times a year on average, sometimes up to 7, and they only last a few hours each. So, I mean, that's a window of maybe 6 hours, 12 hours in the course of an entire year. So it's rare, but it happens. But, hey, it doesn't stop people from rising to great heights because Donald Trump was born during an eclipse. So,
right. So everyone keeps saying Trump was an eclipse baby. So
he was an eclipse baby. He was born during a lunar eclipse. And here he is, president of a country who's going to be having an eclipse while it falls on his ascendant degree. It's kind of an amazing coincidence of factors.
And what, like, amazing coincidence and factors that might mean what?
I remember, I saw this last summer when I was teaching my students. They were at my dining room table and they were pestering me like, look at all the candidates' charts. Look at them. And I said, I hate politics. I don't want to have to look at everything. Please. All right, fine. Show me something. So we got on the internet and we started looking up people's charts and pulled up Trump's chart. And I'd never seen it before. But I had been spending a lot of time talking about planning eclipse events for this summer. So I knew the eclipse chart really well. So I looked at his chart and I just felt my heart just sink, just completely sink into my stomach. And it's really hard for when you have your moon conjunct your ascendant to keep all of your emotions off your face. So my students were like, what is it? And I was like, okay, well, his ascending degree from this chart is conjunct the eclipse chart of next year. And he was born during an eclipse. And so we don't know how the United States election is going to go, but if the country is going to choose to want to face its shadow, this would be the perfect person to do it. He would be the perfect carrier of our collective shadow because he was born when the moon was eclipsed, and the moon represents the public, and the public is in shadow, and he has the eclipse rising in his chart, so he would be directly impacted by that moment in time as the collective carrier of all of our hopes and fears and the things that we don't want to see about ourselves. And so I said, if this is the way the United States wants to go, it would certainly, jumpstart the need to deal with all of our own stuff, but it would be a heck of a ride.
Wow. So on some level we chose to, and I'm going to ask you a shadow question. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm going to ask you a shadow
question. Yeah, hold on. But before I do that, I just want, if you are tuning in right now live, give us a like or a heart, because
when you do that, the way Facebook works is it makes this video show to more of our astrology loving friends. So it'll show up in their feed more, the more engagement and interaction with that we have with each other. So if you can give us a like, give us a heart, give us a hello. I'm seeing some of our friends here and would love to say hi to Anna and Yolanda and to Linda and and Marilyn. So anyways, thank you so much for being here, all of you. It's really great to see you. Ooh, yay, we have lots of likes and hearts. That's so fun. Okay, thank you. All right, so my shadow question. We talk about this a lot, how a Trump is kind of like this harbinger of the collective shadow coming onto the screen, ours as a nation. We talk about personal shadow and how eclipses can provide this opportunity for us to explore our personal shadow, which, by the way, if you haven't downloaded our Eclipse Transformation Blueprint, you can do that. We are going to put a link in the chat that gives you the option to download all of the free gifts that we've been offering for the last few weeks about eclipses. If you want to use this eclipse to look into your own shadow, you can click the link, and our little astrobot, we have this little astrobot who's going to lead you through a series of options, and you can download the Eclipse Transformation Blueprint. We have a quick reference guide to eclipses, and we have a new gift this week that I'm going to let Donna talk to you about in just a little bit. Okay, shadow. So what do we mean when we're talking about personal shadow and collective shadow? For those people out there, they're like, what? Like, I don't really know what that means.
What? Okay, well, we say eclipses are about shadows because they are literally about shadows. And in astrology, often what things look like in the sky, we use them as a reference point for what they mean figuratively in our own lives. So shadow is a word that Carl Jung used to use, although it's a much older concept than that, which is all the parts of ourselves that we don't want to take ownership for, that we don't want to look at. They would say that as children grow up, they get a lot of kudos. You're a good child for doing X, Y, and Z, and a bad child for all the other things. And so all the stuff you got told bad child about, you shove away because your ego self doesn't want to look at them. And you stick them in the closet, like the Flintstone closet version, or you hide them under the bed, or in some other part of your subconscious where you don't have to see them on a regular basis. And you end up using some mental energy to keep them shoved down. And so doing shadow work means stopping pushing everything away so hard. It means being able to recognize that you are not perfect and you might not like everything about yourself, having compassion for your sense of self, staying centered and not being reactive about things. It means, there's a whole series of exercises that you can do and we've been posting some of them in our group as we've gone along, to help you be able to be more mindful of the parts of yourself that you've disowned. And the beauty of that is once you can own them again, you begin to reintegrate parts of your own energetic experience. In shamanic cultures, they would have called it soul loss. You get to do a kind of soul retrieval in a sense, to bring back your essential energies, which can raise your vitality and make life a whole lot more fun and empowered because there's more of you at the table instead of, shoved under the bed saying, I'm not looking at you. I can't hear you. It's not always the negative aspects of ourselves that we put into the shadow either. It can be our gifts, it can be our strengths, it can be our wild raw power. It can be those things that for whatever reason someone told us we were conditioned to think that we had to hide it. So I know. Here's a perfect example. So when I went to boarding school and my headmaster wrote letters of recommendation to the university I went to. When I was graduating university, I got into my own file and I got to read my letters of recommendation. And I remember he said that Donna's wonderful. She's lovely. Her only failing is that she's too enthusiastic. Oof. And I got really miffed. Really miffed. And I stomped around for days until I realized that the word enthusiastic actually means filled with the divine spirit. And I'm going to own this because I am not going to be a flattened Tigger as I run through my life because some boarding school headmaster decided that was a failing in my life.
Good girl. I mean, but that takes some working through, that's for most of us, that doesn't happen automatically. We get that feedback and then we jump in and say, well, I'm just going to own it. So that process of identifying which things for you have been put in shadow and then bringing them into conscious awareness and working with them. So let's go back to eclipses. So that's at a personal level. We're talking about this eclipse being very much about the United States collective shadow. Yes. So what kinds of things might be in our shadow as a nation?
Oh boy, man, do we have lots of things in our shadow as a nation. Anybody who goes and spends some time at a major American university and takes a history class, you will start seeing, evidence of the American shadow. We like to think of ourselves as, we are all about truth, justice, and the American way. We stand for equal rights for everyone, and we stand for freedom in all of its forms. It's just that the things that we do to try to make that happen, whether it's continually bombing countries around the planet for 100 years or more, and saying that it's because we had to, or because we've appointed ourselves as the global policeman, or anything else that you would read in any, I suppose, progressive polemic.
Well, what's the real motivation behind it? That's the shadow.
Right. That's
what is the true motivation?
Yeah. And so all the moneyed interests of the United States, all of the big corporations moving in the shadows, literally, that's all part of our shadow. All the cultural stuff that we don't want to look at, the differences between people who think differently than we do, all of our racial discrimination and all of our sexual and gender discrimination that have happened over the years, all of that. And what's happened with this election cycle? Man, have we had some of our shadows put on the screen. And so that seems to be the way we are choosing. And this eclipse becomes then an opportunity to say, which parts of us are the parts that are important. No, we're not perfect, but how can we come to find some center as a nation? And that's not a simple question when you're in a place where you're sort of all the different parts of yourself are fractured and not speaking to each other.
Well, fractured, not speaking to each other, and not even acknowledged.
Not even acknowledged.
So, a lot of people think that we don't have any of the, they're not consciously thinking of the aspects of our original vision that have become distorted and are now out of alignment, the way that they're expressing today. So how do we even fix it if we're not even acknowledging that it exists?
And that is the excellent question. When it's a person, you can send them to therapy. Right. When it's a person, you can say, hey, why don't you journal for a little bit? But when it's a group of people, think how hard it is to just get 4 or 5 or 6 people on a board of directors to talk to each other and agree on something. You're talking about millions of people coming together and with a common vision. And that is a big task.
And the thing is, the truth is that we don't need, it's not that everyone needs to be holding this certain vision of peace and harmony for this country and for the world. There can be, it's potent and powerful for even small groups. Look, one person can change the entire world. So
absolutely, that's what we can do, is to continue to promote areas and places where people can come together, to promote the hub spaces, so to speak, where people can come together and have these conversations, because lots and lots of little conversations can equal one great big conversation.
This is true. Okay, Donna, I know there might be, are you okay going a few minutes over
That's
today?
Fine.
Because there's some more great questions and I want to get to a couple more. But before I do that, for those of you that need to hop off, we do have a new gift this week. So every week we've been giving new gifts to our community. And these are all free, and they're all designed to help you dive deeper into your understanding of eclipses and to really start to explore the Great American Eclipse and your own chart and what this is going to bring up for you personally, etc. We have a third gift this week. Can you talk to everybody about what that is?
Sure. In the Astrology Hub group, we've had lots of people asking questions. How does this affect my planet, my sun? It's happening conjunct my sun, or it's happening conjunct my moon, or it's happening conjunct my Saturn, it's happening conjunct fill in the blank. So what we decided to do was make a a guide to help you interpret what it is to have the eclipse conjunct or opposing one of your natal planets. And our designer, Anna, did an amazing job of making it's like a piece of contemplation art that you can work through to understand the difference between, then this work will work for any eclipse, by the way. It's not just this upcoming eclipse. So work through whether it's a lunar or a solar eclipse, what it would mean for each of your planets, how to determine in a chart which degrees are going to be important. And it's just beautiful. And I really, really encourage everyone to download it because Anna did an amazing job.
Okay, so you can do that. There's a link beneath this video and above the video that will give you access to that gift and the other gifts that we've already put out there. So you can get it all. It's like Christmas. All right. Okay, so let's see. How will lunar eclipse on August? Let's talk about the lunar eclipse that comes up a few weeks before. This one person specifically wants to know how it's going to affect anyone that has their birthday. So can we talk about birthdays on the lunar eclipse, August 7th, and or on the August 21st solar eclipse?
Yeah, having a birthday on the eclipse just means that either if it's your birthday and it's going to be on your sun. If the lunar eclipse is happening on your birthday, that just means the moon is conjunct your sun. And so in both cases, because it's your birthday, it's impacting your sun. So when you download the free gift, first thing, look up the sun because it's just an eclipse that happens to be impacting your sun. But that's your essential vitality. That's how you choose to make decisions in the world. That's how you shine, how you elevate yourself, honors and things that come your way. It's basically a time when these things are hyper intensified in your life. You're hyper aware for however long the eclipse sensitivity lasts of the affairs governed by the sun. So I have been playing with eclipses for the last, I don't know how long, and looking at every single eclipse that have impacted my chart in any way. And I give you about even money that sometimes they can the transformation can be powerful. One time I won a national contest and got called by President Reagan a couple weeks after an eclipse hit my ascendant. So that's amazing to see these kinds of connections. But sometimes they happen. I've had eclipses on my birthday and they were just, I was going, what did I do that? And I'm flipping through books and flipping through my journals and really it's not a big deal. So just because an eclipse is offering you an opportunity, it may not be a time that your soul needs to take that opportunity. So there is some agency that you have in this. But if it's a time in your life where your soul needed to get you to another level, it is the perfect time to align things to make some big changes in your lives.
Okay. All right. So Kalaneka is asking, can we get these gifts from our Kajabi site? So for those of you who don't know, we do have a membership program at Astrology Hub. It's called the Year of Astrology. It's closed right now, but if you're interested in joining this membership site, this membership program where we have different astrologers once a month doing a new moon forecast, a master class. We have a whole vibrant, amazing, alive community around the Year of Astrology. We are going to be opening up registration soon. You can put your name on the waiting list. If you think you might want to join, Donna is one of our contributing astrologers. We have like the best astrologers in the world that come on every month and guide us with forecasts and trainings and teachings, and it's incredible. You can join our waitlist. You can go to yearofastrology.com and just click the waitlist. For those who are already in Year of Astrology, I think it's a fantastic idea that we put the gifts into your membership portal. So yes, we will do that. It's not there yet, but we'll do it. So stay tuned for that. Okay. I think that we're good for now. This has been a lot. I just want to read a couple of the comments, which are really awesome. So Julie says, exploring my shadow side is a good thing. And exploring my shadow side, USA, good thing, and healing, but dealing with a whole country, let alone the world, is very frightening until I remember that it is all of us in the hub and all over the world that are shining light into the shadows, which is exactly what has to happen for shadows to actually transform and be brought to light. You have to bring light to it. There's no other way to transform it. You cannot transform the shadow with more darkness. It has to be infused with light. So this is very true. Linda says, recognition of shadow is the first step to change, right? What an adventure. And, you know, I always remind myself when when we're at places like this in our lives that we signed up, I believe we signed up to be here at this time. Like there's a reason why we came right here, right now, at this time, with all of the shifts happening. And I always think of us as the really bold, brave adventurers who are like, okay, I know it's going to be crazy down there, and I'm going. Like I'm going anyways because I have a mission to do. I have evolution for my soul to happen. I know that these times of turmoil are the times where I can evolve at an even faster pace. I mean, so there's a lot of reasons why, you know, whoever knows why your soul chose to be here, but you chose to be here at this time. So I think this is a time for great introspection too, for why you came and what gifts did you come to bring, and how can you be doing that even more and more every day, you know, in your life. So again, opportunity.
And in a sense, eclipses like this wake up people. It activates people, so they will go and give those gifts to the world. That's what they're for. You know, I counted, there are 688 eclipses in the world between the year 1901 and 2050. So that is 688 wake-up calls that we give to ourselves over a 150-year period. And think about it. That's a lot of flashing neon. Hey, hello, come on, get moving. I mean, eclipses are a gift to get people engaged in doing their soul work because it gives us an opportunity to practice. If everything is if you break something and it's a little unstable, you have the chance to recreate. And this is a chance to recreate from the various pieces.
All right, we're going to end on that note for sure. Thank you so much, Donna, for sharing with us all of your wisdom. It is always such a pleasure to share this space with you, and I'm very, very grateful. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. It's been so fun to watch the comments and to see you there and to know that this is helpful for you because, again, at the end of the day, this is why we're doing it. So please leave your comments, leave your feedback, leave your questions. If you do have questions, though, put them in the Q&A in the Astrology Eclipse portal because that's where we come through to ask these questions during the Q&A. So Astrology Eclipse portal, if you're not a member yet, just click join group. It's free. We'll let you in and ask your questions in the Q&A thread there. So thank you, everyone. And on Tuesday, Thursday, on Thursday, same time, same place, I'm going to be speaking live with Natasha Alter, another one of our amazing Year of Astrology astrologers. She is so beautiful and profound and deep and wise, and you do not want to miss it. So it's Thursday at 12:30 Pacific. We will be talking eclipses. She's been like preparing for it. I know she's going to come with some amazing, juicy information. And she's actually one of my dearest friends. She is the person who gave my first astrology reading. So she's the reason why we're here today. I didn't even know what astrology was 5-6 years ago. So Natasha Alter, my first reading, and now is my very dear friend. I call her my fairy godmother. She is that profound in my life. She will be that impactful in your life as well. I know it. Awesome. So show up Thursday, and we can't wait to share with you then. All right. Aloha, everybody.